What are your views on Dr. S. Jaishankar's statement that India buys less oil in a month than Europe buys in an afternoon? He also said that we are worried about human rights issues in the US. Is India enjoying the best diplomatic position currently in the history of the past 71 years? Uh, yeah, so Dr. S. Jaishankar made a very factual statement when he was being, I think, when he was being questioned by journalists about India buying Russian oil. So that's what he said, that we buy less oil in a month from Russia than Europe buys in an afternoon. And I think it's a very factual statement. It's the best possible response to these annoying and condescending questions that American journalists are quite want to ask. So it's a factual thing that is said, and it's absolutely correct. He also said that India is worried about human rights, about the human rights situation in the US. While the Americans have had this long tradition of lecturing India about the democracy and human rights and such like. When the fact is that the human rights situation in the US is also very concerning. You have these shootings, school shootings, shootings, terrible, terrible things that happen routinely in the US. It's a routine thing in the US. It happens almost every day, every other day. I mean, if you look at the statistics of gun violence in the US, it's terrifying, right? And you also have these issues of racial profiling of people of Indian origin being targeted. Recently, a couple of Sikh gentlemen were beaten up or something like that happened very recently, just a day or two before S. Jaishankar, Dr. Jaishankar was there in the US. Maybe when he was there, I'm not sure exactly what the chronology is, but yeah, that happened very recently. And you have the appalling situation that the Native Americans are enduring. They've been enduring for decades, for centuries. And when it comes to the plight of the African American people, the black people, we know it's very well documented how terrible it is. And that's why the entire Black Lives Matter movement emerged. So that's why it emerged. You know the racial profiling that the American cops do. If you are black, you are way more, you have a much higher likelihood of being shot for no reason by an American cop, and so on. And that situation persists even today. So the human rights situation in the US is indeed very worrying. And why should India not express concern about that when the US has this tendency of unnecessarily poking into our internal affairs? So for the first time, like you're saying, in 71 years or whatever the time period is, for the first time India is talking to the US in this manner. It's giving back as good as it gets. So it's a very good development. I can see very good assertive language that is being used. Thus far it is words, but it has to be backed up by action. So I'm not saying that we need to take certain actions about US human rights or whatever, but India needs to be more assertive geopolitically in its own region first of all. So you need to back up words with actions. Words, if they are taken alone, they just empty words, they just empty bravado. I'm not saying that's what we're doing. I think we are being very assertive right now geopolitically in the Indian Ocean region. So we are witnessing a very different India now. India is changing. India is way more confident. This current government has probably the best foreign policy I have ever seen in the past 70 years. We are looking after our own national interests for a change, for the first time in forever. So yes, India is doing well. India's diplomacy is pretty robust right now. I would like to see the Indian diplomatic corps being expanded beyond the current numbers, because we need many more diplomats to engage effectively with the world. I mean, we need a diplomatic corps that is commensurate with the size and clout that India should have, and in the size that India has. So these developments are very welcome, very positive, very good for India, and it needs to continue.